By the year 2020, 50% of St. Louis residents will have college degrees. Coming up next on City Corner, we talk with the coalition that is working to make this ambitious goal a reality. Please join us. Welcome to City Corner. I'm your host, Melanie Adams. Currently, 28% of adults in the St. Louis region have a college degree. Today, we're talking with members of a coalition who are working to double that number by the year 2020. Joining us, we have Jane Donahue of the Deaconess Foundation and Faith Sadler of the Scholarship Foundation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, I guess the first question is, how is the College Access Pipeline project developed and why?
Well, it really started around a coffee table at a coffee shop in St. Louis, as all great things do.
Of course.
And it began because there were a number of funders. I work at Deaconess Foundation, and who were excited about the growing number of college access providers in the community. But we knew that they weren't serving all the kids. They couldn't do everything they needed to do for the kids. And we knew that we needed to work together, sort of the theory of 1 + 1 = 3, if we were really going to do what we could do for low-income kids in the St. Louis region. So it started at that coffee shop and then really kind of has grown, I would say, into a movement. We are a coalition of most of the largest college access providers in the St. Louis area. In addition, we have a number of funders who are working with us, and we've grown to include superintendents and the Missouri Department of Higher Ed and the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed, all kind of trying to row in the same direction of really trying to help reach that goal. It's an ambitious goal of doubling the numbers and reaching, by 2020, 50% of our adult population having higher ed degrees.
Well, I think one of the things I really have to commend the group on, usually in St. Louis, we see a problem, we start an organization. And I think your model is wonderful because you said there are already people doing this work. We need a coalition, not another organization.
Exactly.
So can you talk a little bit about your partners and how partners kind of find you and get involved with the coalition?
So part of the way we started was just recognizing that there were pockets of excellence throughout the community, people doing fabulous work to encourage young people to take the next step in their educational journey. But sometimes what was happening in one part of one school was unknown to someone else in that very same school building, or a school district right next to another district not necessarily knowing about and sharing resources or best practices. So the first question was just to inventory who's paying attention to this issue in the region, what are they doing, can we get everyone in the same room, collect common data, and start talking with each other about how to best serve the needs of our students.
Well, I think as president of the Scholarship Foundation, people make the assumption that money is the only reason why students don't go on to college. But I think through this program, you're learning there are a myriad of different reasons. Can you talk a little bit about what are some of the other reasons that students just don't go to college?
Well, one of the things we did when we first started is we decided we needed to commission some research. So we all have good guesses. We're all very smart people and can sort of assume things. But wouldn't it be better to know from the research what low-income students and all students need to prepare for college? So we did that. We published a report card sort of on how St. Louis was doing. And in that research, really learned that there are some key steps along the pipeline that all kids need access to. They need to know that college is a goal. They need to be attending schools that provide college prep curriculums. They need to be attending high schools that really have a college-going culture, so every grown-up and student in that school really knows that, that college is a possibility. If they're first-generation students, a lot of times they need help navigating the college pathway. It's a daunting process, so they need that help, and then they need help with persisting through graduation. It's a huge leap, especially if you're the first in your family to move on to college. So we learned that every student needs that kind of pipeline, if you will. But not all students are getting that. And so trying to figure out how to create the resources so all students will have that kind of opportunity.
And I think you hit on a really important word there. It's using the word culture and creating that college-going culture in your school. So what are some of the things that these schools are doing to create a college-bound culture?
So a couple of the things that the research identifies are high expectations among all the adults in the building, whether that's the principal, the administrative assistant in the front office, or the classroom teacher, parents, all the adults involved in those children's lives. Another is planning time during the day, during the normal course of school activities. So let's not just end with 12th grade, but let's spend a part of our time talking about what happens next. So in addition to having college as a goal, we know kids need all sorts of planning support to make that goal a reality. So those are key. Role models on premises, alumni who've walked this route before, teachers who are accessible and willing, guidance counseling, the proper curriculum, access to the right courses, and the opportunity to know more and ask good questions about how to move through that process.
Well, and I think, as Jane says, it's such a daunting process, even for people who may have had parents who've gone to college, even something like the FAFSA, which is confusing, and just kind of the process. And a lot of students, I think, don't understand what goes into selecting a college. So you'll have students who say, well, I want to go to UCLA. Well, do you want to go to a large urban school? Is that the best fit for you? Right. So I guess, how do some of your partners work with the students to make sure they're making the right fit? Because it's not only choosing college, but what's the right college for this student?
So I think with all this work, the more you do it, the more questions you have about what else you need to know. So I think we've made incredible strides in some of the schools on helping the kids think about preparing for and getting into college. But this question about match, what's the best match, is huge. And one of the things that the College Access Pipeline Project has done is started to bring together people from higher ed, guidance counselors, people that provide college access services, people that provide scholarships, to really talk about what are the ingredients for a good match. Because a student needs to go to a school and really know how to pick a school that's the right academic rigor, the right distance from home, urban, rural, all sorts of, and the financial match is key too. So.
And I think that's a really good point, because again, you'll have a lot of young people who may say, I want to go to school in New York, I want to go to school in LA, but really it's about persistence. Again, college is not the end step, and I'm sure that's what you tell your students, it's persisting through. And so how do you make sure that they're not only getting into the college, but then they're persisting through those 4 years and actually graduating? How do you think, which I'm sure this is probably in your study as well, but all of this also ties a little bit to job creation. So it's important for St. Louis to have a high graduation rate, because then that ties into jobs and building the community. So are the funders and the business community really tied to this idea for that reason?
We've had great conversations with the business community about the importance of the goal and about what they can do, either their affiliations or their individual businesses, to support progress towards the goal. So one of the fabulous outcomes thus far has been a whole group of people from different sectors recognizing the importance of this. So the college completion rate is important for existing businesses, it's important for attracting new businesses, and research would tell us it's also important for the well-being of individuals in the community, whether or not they've completed a college degree. So average wages go up in a community with the proportion of college degrees in that community for everyone, not just for degree holders. So it's important for the well-being of the whole region.
And I think one of the slides we had early on dealt with where Missouri or St. Louis ranked among college degree holding states. And where were we on that? It was kind of in the middle to bottom, if I remember correctly.
We were in the bottom third. So in the research, we studied 35 metropolitan areas. And out of those 35, we're number 24. The interesting thing is that we're number 12 in high school graduation.
Okay.
So that's one of the really interesting pieces of information from the report, is that we're very good at graduating students from high school, and there's some high schools, especially like in Jefferson and Warren and Franklin County, that students are graduating from high school, they've got high ACT scores, but they're not going on to college. So some work to be done there.
Well, I think one of the things, if I were a parent and say I'm a parent of a 7th or 8th grader, what advice I think would you give me to make sure that I'm creating that culture of college readiness in my home and with my students? What would you tell me?
Every time you take a vacation anywhere or get in the car to drive across town, you stop at or drive through an institution of higher education and point it out. Every time you take a tour of a museum or a historical facility, you ask the person at the helm, so what did you study and where did you go to school? All the adults that individual's in contact with encourage a conversation about planning and about aspirations and goals. And homework, attention to curriculum, the importance of education in the household, no matter the attainment level of the parent. The parent is critical to encouraging that in the next generation.
Right. And I think exactly what you're saying really goes back to what you said in terms of surrounding the student with positive influence and role models around the idea of college access and making sure they continue on with their education, because I think that's something that's going to be really important, because if they don't see the role models and see other people telling them that they can go to college, then they're less likely to consider that an option. And I'm sure one of the things you hear is, well, I don't see people who look like me there.
Right.
Well, and when we've done some surveying, because we're doing this sort of coordinated plan for the region, and who do students listen to most, what they say in the survey and what we observe, is that they want to see, you know, their people they went to high school with 2 years ago come back and talk to them about their college careers. So that's who they're listening to.
Right. It really is that peer-to-peer activities that really promotes the college readiness. And they say, oh, well, if that, kid that I knew down the block can go to college, well, I'm as smart as, they are, so I can go to college too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Similarly, though, if we don't, as a community, come together to do what we can to assure the success of that student so that he or she can come back and set an example, it can bounce the other way.
Right. And
the pendulum can swing the other way. So students can say, I saw Jane go, she's back, and she's got a level of debt and a set of issues.
It's a matter
so this is our moment to begin to support the student. And part of the reason we came together is that unless all those ingredients are in place, we're not doing what we need to do.
We will not be successful.
So money isn't enough alone. A program isn't enough alone. A rigorous curriculum is not enough alone. But together,
we'll be able to bring all of those together. Well, I would like to thank our guests
Thank you.
for this segment, Jane Donahue of the Deaconess Foundation and Faith Sadler of the Scholarship Foundation. And coming up next on City Corner, we'll be talking with one of their partners, College Summit. So please come back. Welcome back to City Corner. Today we're talking about college access programs. Joining me now is Stacy Clay, Executive Director of College Summit. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Well, first, tell us a little bit about College Summit.
College Summit is a national organization that began in 1993. And in its inception, its primary focus was on the transition process of going to college. So those activities that take place really in the junior and senior year, the application, the writing of the personal statement, applying for the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. Those kinds of activities Since then, it's evolved, but really that remains our sweet spot, is really focusing on the transition piece, and to a large degree also building the college-going culture within schools. College Summit St. Louis began in 2005, and it began out of a need that some folks in the community saw around students, high potential students who were graduating from St. Louis public schools, but not going on to college.
Right. So then, when students, if you're a junior, and so if I'm a junior at an area high school, am I automatically enrolled in College Summit? Is it voluntary, mandatory? How are students selected, I guess, for the program?
So there are kind of two selection components to College Summit. The first is for our summer workshop.
Okay.
Our summer workshops are designed for mid-tier students. So these are students that are 2.0 to 3.0 students. We're looking for the students in the spring semester of the junior year who can participate in our upcoming summer workshops. So this year, for example, right now we're looking for juniors who are rising seniors to participate in our summer workshops. These students are often recommended by principals, counselors, and teachers. And you do have to apply to be a peer leader, as we call them, and participate in the summer workshop. If we fast forward to the fall, College Summit is offered as a class. And at that point, all seniors, or a vast majority of seniors, I should say, are put into the College Summit class. And essentially, it's a post-secondary planning class. It's led by a teacher that has received training from College Summit. It's also guided by a curriculum that we've developed in an online management system.
Right. Well, I think one of the things you said was really interesting. It's for students who are in that 2.0 to 3.0 range, and I think that's really important because so many times you have programs like these or scholarships for kids who have 3.5s, 4.0s, and a lot of times you have some great students in that 2 to 3 point scale and they just don't have the same opportunities. So was this strategic to select that, that group?
Absolutely. We know a lot of attention is given, and rightfully so, to students who are at the top of the GPA scale. Conversely, students who are at the lower end and are having some academic challenges are often given a lot of attention, a lot of opportunities. But students who are in the middle often aren't, those opportunities aren't made available to them. And oftentimes, they can really be the levers of influence to help students who may be struggling, or even to help students who may have good GPAs, but didn't necessarily think college was for them and thought some other kind of avenue might be for them after high school.
Well, so essentially, College Summit is helping to create that college culture within the high school.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, now, since you've been here for 6 years, I guess now, I guess what are some of your success stories? I'm sure you have dozens, but are there one or two that really kind of stand out where you're like, yes, this is what College Summit is about, this is what we were meant to do?
Absolutely. There's a couple of alumni that I'd love to talk about.
Sure.
A young man named Sean Williams, graduate from Vashon, went through the College Summit program a couple of years ago. He was a peer leader. He has returned subsequently. He's currently at Missouri State. And he's returned subsequently to be an alumni leader. And so within the summer component, there's an opportunity for students who have been through the program to come back and serve. And while it's not explicitly one of our stated goals, one thing that we really want to engender students is a desire to come back into their community and serve as they have been served and give back. And so Sean has served as an alumni leader for the past 2 years. And he has been instrumental in really working with a number of young people and getting them on the right path. Students who may not have thought, well, you know, college isn't for me, I'm just going to go straight to work, I want to get a job. He's really talked to, especially our young men, who in some cases really don't see college for them. They are more attracted to the world of work and earning money. He's been very influential in working with them. We have another alumni, a young woman named Antoinette, who is working with us as an alumni now. She's serving as an intern and will be serving as an assistant director at our workshop. And she is a phenomenal young lady as well. And really, they both embody this notion of coming back into your community and giving back. And really what they're doing is helping build a culture.
Right. Well, I think it goes back to what we talked a little bit about in the first segment in terms of the peer mentoring, and students listen a lot more if the information is coming from one of their peers, as opposed to you or one of your teachers standing up and saying, go to college, it's for you,
right.
You'll like it, versus, the student coming back and saying, man, it was hard the first semester, but I got through it, and this is what I did, and you'll be able to do it too. And so I think that's really important. Well, talk a little bit about, so I'm a senior at Vashon in this class, in this College Summit class. What's it like? What can I expect? What will I be doing?
Well, and I'll answer that question by beginning with the teacher.
Okay.
Teachers tend to get very excited about College Summit because it's not like math, it's not like English. Right. It's really an opportunity to talk to young people about their future and what they want to do.
Right.
So the curriculum is not, it's not rigorous in the sense that there's a lot of heady material involved, but it's rigorous in the sense that there are deadlines that students need to meet, because those who have been through the college process understand it's very deadline driven.
Yes.
Once the deadline passes for an application to a college or university, that's it. Right. You don't get a do-over, you don't get to call and say, hey, but I'd really like to go.
Right.
That's kind of it. And so it's rigorous in terms of the deadlines and the schedule, but it's really an opportunity for young people to really think broadly about what they want to do in the immediate term and in the long term, how they want their life plan to go. And that's an exciting thing for a young person to really talk about in a meaningful way. And I think it's very exciting for teachers to be a part of that process.
And to have someone listen to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very important. Well, looking at the summer program, and I know one of the things you do look for volunteers and people to help out with the writing workshops. Tell me a little bit about that. What does that entail? What do they do? Where do they go? Kind of how does that whole summer workshop program work?
Summer workshop is a unique volunteer experience, and really a unique experience all the way around. It lasts Thursday to Sunday, so it's a 4-day experience. Students arrive on one of our partner colleges' campuses. Okay. This year we'll be having workshops at Rankin Technical College, Washington University, and 2 at the University of Missouri St. Louis. And let me speak a little bit about the variety of institutions where we're holding these. We think it gives kind of a different perspective on what higher education and what college can be. We have everything from Rankin Technical College, fine institution, to Washington University, another fine institution, but kind of represent different spectrums and different views of higher education. So these students arrive on campus on Thursday, and it's kind of neat to see because they don't really know what's going to happen. Right. It's a bit of a surprise that unfolds each day. But there are 4 main areas that we concentrate on. First is writing the personal statement. Right. So this is the college essay that is mandatory in almost every application. And students spend a lot of time with the help of a volunteer writing coach. And so that's where that caring adult comes in, that mentorship piece comes in. They help craft their personal statement, one that is compelling, one that tells the student's story, and from an admissions perspective can be that piece that may tip the scales one way or another. The second component is they learn about financial aid. They learn about the different types of financial aid, learn about some things that they need to be thinking about as they make application to college. They go through what are called these motivational rap sessions, which are kind of these inspirational sessions led by an adult facilitator to talk about obstacles they may overcome in their lives and how they can parlay that strength into this new challenge of going to college. And finally, they learn about the college application process, which is a very unique process. Many of them have not gone through any kind of process like this, so they need some information and some background to make that successful for them.
And I know I've had a few friends who served as the writing coaches, and I'm told it's a cry fest by the end. I mean, I've heard it's really uplifting, that final program that happens at the end of the 4 days, because if you think about it, I mean, your personal statement, it's kind of draining to write. You're really thinking about what encapsulates me as a person, what do I want this college to know about me, and I mean, everyone has said volunteering with this has been a wonderful experience. So if people are interested in learning more about how they can volunteer to work one of these summer workshops, what's the information? Where do they go?
Well, certainly they can go to the website, which is collegesummit.org, and I believe that may be shown later on. And they can also call 345-4463 for more information on this very unique volunteer experience.
Now, how many students are in each workshop?
We have between 40 and 50 students per
Okay,
workshop.
so about how many volunteers do you usually take per workshop?
Usually about 10 per
Okay,
workshop.
so you're looking at anywhere from 40 to 50 volunteers this summer then to serve in one of those 4 locations.
Yes.
Wonderful. Now, are there any, and I'm sure this is all on the website, are there any specific requirements someone needs to have, an age or have any experience writing?
So you do not have to be a professional writer, you don't have to be a poet or anything like that. We do ask that writing coaches have a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
But beyond that, we do have a requisite background check, some things like that. But beyond that, really just someone with an eagerness to help a young person craft their story and get it down on paper.
Well, great. Well, I really hope that our audience will look into College Summit and help you with your volunteers this summer. And I would like to thank Stacy Clay and all of our guests here today talking about college access. I think this is really important for the St. Louis region, and we would like to thank them. And thank you for watching City Corner, and see you next time.
Thank you.